However, with these positives come the negatives, with the negative effects of carb loading being an increase in weight, as athletes will be eating far more than their average daily intake, as well as muscular stiffness and changes in sugar levels within the bloodstream. These changes of sugar levels within the bloodstream can cause athletes to have low energy at times, sometimes making it a risky strategy. This ergogenic aid is also legal, as carb loading is purely a personal choice within an athlete's diet that is legal, as there is also negative effects to it, as it can also make them put on weight, making this purely a strategy for an athlete, as they will have to weigh up the pros and cons to this ergogenic aid. They are able to do this, however, because this is a safe ergogenic aid with no risk. The next ergogenic aid we will be looking at is music, which falls under the psychological category. This is used before an event, playing from a speaker or personal headphones so only you can listen. This psychological aid is able to give an increased arousal level as well as decreased arousal levels. This is due to the genre of music played, with usually rock and roll or high tempo beats getting people more hyped up and an increased arousal level, whereas slower. With this, they will also be able to increase their focus levels before an event. This is due to the fact that when listening to headphones, you will feel like you are in your own personal bubble with no distractions from the outside world, allowing you to think of the task in hand. With this in mind, almost any athlete would find this a positive thing, with runners often hyping themselves up before an event like the 200 meters, as it is a full out sprint, making them want to have a high arousal level alongside weightlifters. And looking at the other end of the spectrum, darts players, however, they will be wanting to decrease their arousal levels to maintain focus and be able to execute their technique, usually making them listen to slower music. As this is a psychological technique different for every person, there are no guidelines to the amount of music you can listen to, as well as what music you can listen to, which also means that there are no consequences, as the ergogenic aid is completely legal, with it being completely safe. However, almost every phone will have guidelines about the volume that they should be listening at, making sure that it's not too loud that it can damage their eardrums. The penultimate ergogenic aid that we'll be looking at is again psychological, with it being imagery. This is a method used before an event to prepare for inevitable moments that will need to be executed during the day. Looking at the positives of this ergogenic aid is the preparation that an individual will have, allowing them to act quickly in each scenario, as sport is very unpredictable. However, with preparation, you will be able to act much faster, with different strategies already in mind. This will then increase an individual's positivity due to the fact that they will feel prepared for any scenario that will occur, which will then reflect in their game. Athletes that benefit from this ergogenic aid are bobsleigh drivers as well as Formula One drivers. This is due to the fact that there is a set course in mind, and they will be able to run through the course in their head the night before. This will then allow them to know exactly where to go on every corner, as well as what corners are the best to overtake if you're an F1 driver. Golfers, on the other hand, will use imagery during their session as they prepare for the shot that they are about to execute, allowing them to carry out the shot positively, knowing what was intended. When looking at the negative effects, however, there is a possibility that you could be using incorrect imagery. For example, an F1 driver could use imagery on corners that aren't actually there, making them remember a course that they are not going to compete on, which will then cause for mistakes during the day of racing, as they will be anticipating a turn that isn't there. As well as this, overthinking can also cause mental fatigue, which can be considered dangerous for bobsleigh drivers as well as F1 drivers, as they will be travelling at incredible speed, with mental fatigue increasing the chances of making a mistake. Although this is the case, there are no guidelines to this ergogenic aid, with mental preparation being used all the time before events, and due to this there are no consequences when being used. Finally, the last ergogenic aid that we will be looking at is mechanical, which in the shape of nasal strips. These are used by inserting them onto the bridge of an athlete's nose, increasing the surface area of their nostrils, allowing for more air to be inhaled at one time with ease. This allows for endurance athletes to gain more oxygen in a shorter space of time, which is crucial when they are using the aerobic energy system, which is very reliant on oxygen, as it is its main energy source. Alongside this, it will also decrease the effort used to inhale this required oxygen, and therefore will decrease the loss of breath when exercising. As mentioned, athletes that will benefit from this are marathon runners, football players, rugby players and rowers, and many more, all in stages using the aerobic energy system, and therefore will find it much easier to compete when using nasal strips. An example of an endurance athlete using these nasal strips is Bradley Wiggins during the 2012 Olympic time trial race, in which allowed him to come first, gaining him the nasal strips proving to be one of the reasons why he won. However, although these positives are the case, there are also negative effects to nasal strips, with them being proven to be uncomfortable as well as a distraction. This is due to the fact that these nasal strips will be right in your eye line, making your attention to stray away from the task at hand. With these nasal strips not being considered dangerous, this ergogenic aid isn't illegal, making there no consequences when using the piece of equipment, allowing many athletes like Bradley Wiggins to use this to their advantage.